From black tank disasters to broken windows and blown tires and more, this week we're talking about some RV disasters from the RV community. What are some of the best stories that we've heard out there and how to avoid them? This is RV Miles. Chances are you've seen them on the road. That's because Blue Ox designs and manufactures the best towing products in the industry. Just look around. You'll find them on highways, in campgrounds, and anywhere you find people traveling in the great outdoors. From award-winning tow bars and base plates to a full line of weight-distributing hitches, adjustable ball mounts, and now they have fifth-wheel hitches too. With Blue Ox, towing doesn't have to be a drag. Visit blueox.com for more information. From packing lunches to loading up that dreaded RV laundry, Eco-Family Goods environmentally friendly wet bags are the perfect addition to your everyday RV life needs. From snack bags to extra large laundry bags, Eco-Family Goods wet bags are machine washable, durable, long-lasting, and feature a food-safe lining made right here in the USA. We have a set of wet bags in all different sizes that will definitely be joining us as we head out in the RV for our big spring trip. We love not having to buy disposable sandwich bags, and the XL large wet bags are perfect for bathing suits, towels, extremely dirty laundry, and so much more. But best of all, we like shopping small and supporting a small business owned by fellow RVers. Discover why so many people are ditching plastic bags in favor of sustainable, financially friendly, reusable wet bags. Visit ecofamilygoods.com and save 10% with code RVMiles. That's ecofamilygoods.com with promo code RVMiles. Welcome to episode number 351 of RV Miles. I'm Jason.
And I'm Abby. And we are two RVers who, along with our three boys, Jack, Ethan, and Henry, have been crisscrossing North America on one epic road trip since 2016. Here at RV Miles, we talk all things RV and outdoors, from industry news to travel destinations, our national parks, and so much more.
It's cold. We got a ton of snow. The snow's pretty, but it's cold. We're ready to go camping, and we can't. We get to pick up the new RV in a couple days, so we're very excited about that, though we may be just dropping it off somewhere else, but we'll get to that on a future episode. So we're very excited to get up there and see it, but we're not excited that we're not going to be able to go camp in it. So, we thought this week we'd sort of reminisce about the camping seasons that were. And we're going to tell some of our horror stories about some of our biggest mistakes, our biggest disasters when we travel. And we're going to share some from some other people around the RV Miles community and Reddit and more.
So Jason put this show together. This is a Jason devised show. What I love is he's like, I miss camping. We're going to reminisce about camping while we talk about the disasters of camping. And I don't know that that's what...
Get prepared.
I don't know that that's what I reminisce about when I think about our camping life, but let's do it.
It's been a long time since we've towed a fifth wheel.
Since we've had a disaster?
No, so we've been traveling in a travel trailer for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we've towed a fifth wheel. So, part of what started this was I was, seeing some fifth wheel connection disasters and thinking, oh, I got to really, get our new checklist together, be on top of our game on all that sort of stuff, so that when we, we've got a new hitch we're going to be working with, that sort of stuff. So when we start doing this, like Tuesday is when we pick it up. And when, you think, okay, Tuesday, we're just picking it up. That's not a big deal, right? But that's when the mistakes happen, because you're just like, it's just a small thing. We're not, we don't need to do all the preparation stuff. So, I put a post up in the RV Miles Facebook group about, or you did, I don't know which one of us did.
It was you. You did the oopsies one.
Yes, about disasters that you may have had. I also have found some others around the internet, and we want to talk about those. And, this is kind of like, several months ago we did why your RV trip sucks and how to fix it. This is sort of a compendium to that, right? So that one was really more about travel, and this is really more about actually using the RV.
Yeah, and I think the best way to look at this is that this isn't a disaster episode where we're going to talk about, like, here are the 5,000 things that are going to go wrong.
The camera shake disaster.
Yeah. It's more about, like, here are things that happened. And isn't it a good reminder for all of us that these things have happened?
How
This
do
is
you
how
know? I
they
put this episode
got.
together. How do you know what it's about?
Because you just said it's about RV disasters. And I know you enough to know that it's going to be about disasters, but we're also going to talk about how we can avoid these disasters or what we learned from these disasters. I have been married to you or with you for 18 years. I'm pretty sure I know how a Jason Epperson organized RV Miles
We're
podcast is
recording
going to
this.
go.
We're recording this episode on Valentine's Day.
We
Happy
are.
Valentine's Day, dear.
Oh, thank you. Happy Hallmark Day to you
This is
as
the
well,
day
my
we
dear.
got engaged.
It
Pretty
is.
stereotypical Italian restaurant.
Yeah. Don't think
Valentine's Day.
don't think
Very
the
pregnant
very pregnant.
girlfriend.
I wasn't very pregnant. I was only
Okay,
like 12 weeks.
you're
Yeah.
a
So
third of the way through.
I was a third of the way there bringing Jack into this world when we got engaged. And it was beautiful and it was wonderful and it was an Italian restaurant downtown Chicago that we have never been back to
We also
since.
got a flat tire at this I
Yes.
was like, we were poor, right? And we
We were theater people. We were taking care of everything we needed to take care of, but we weren't putting anything towards retirement.
and we use the valet.
He was
And
so
which is like,
fancy.
I don't even know if I'd ever done that
We
before at that point.
we valeted that Ford Taurus so hard.
It was like it was the green Ford Taurus that has like all the rounded edges that
Oh,
that lots of people had in the 90s.
so sweet.
And and this was not the 90s anymore.
Mm-mm.
And we got the car back from the valet. They had given us the key and they had parked it out front. And one tire was completely flat with a giant slice in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's
so they were
great.
like, well, it was fine when we drove it out of here.
Yeah, they weren't going to do anything for us. And it was February, much like
Yeah.
the weather is today in Chicago. It was freaking freezing. If you're watching this, you might notice that I'm literally wearing a beanie today because I feel like I haven't been warm for 2
We didn't
days.
get here in enough time to
Turn
pump the
the
heat up enough.
Yeah. Well, and it's been so cold that, I woke up this morning and Google Home said the temperature was 0. It couldn't even be bothered to give it a number. Like it was so cold this morning. So we're in the middle of a cold freeze. We were in the middle of something similar on the night that we got engaged. And then we were like downtown Chicago with a flat tire. And that kind of started or was like in the midst of like when we went through a whole flat tire phase where
Yeah.
we just kept getting a lot of flat tires.
Yeah.
So
I think
it
we just
seems
needed new tires was probably the
probably
issue.
it does seem like for us disasters, and that wasn't a disaster. It was lovely. But it does seem like for us disasters come in phases. Like we'll have a whole phase, and this has happened too in the RV world. To return this back to an RV podcast, because I'm sure we'll get the comments of like, it took 20 minutes for you to get to the topic. That's what they sound like in my head when they leave those comments. But it seems like that when we look at disasters in our own RV life, that for us, we went through a really long period of water. Actually, water has plagued us our whole RV life. That seems to be a theme at RV Miles, is that there's always a water issue.
Yeah.
And it's minor. Thankfully, they've all been ones
They've all been mine.
we
Yeah.
have been
People
able
have had
to.
serious ones and we haven't.
No.
Yeah.
The most serious thing that happened in one of them was like all of my cookbooks got wet. And I was sad about it.
Yeah. That was sad though.
That was really sad. In fact, I cooked out of one of them yesterday and I was like, oh, it's all crinkled and it goes, and I'm like, oh, remember that one time we had water and got all over my cookbooks. But that does seem to be the theme of our disaster. Disasters for you in an RV or just stressors in an RV for you could be something totally different. But water does seem to be the thing that plagues us all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's jump into these. Why don't we? All right. So the first one has to do with what I was talking about, like what was the impetus for this episode, and remembering about towing a fifth wheel and hooking it up on that sort of stuff.
Italian restaurants in
No,
downtown Chicago?
no, it's about improper hitching and unhitching,
Oh, yeah.
and not giving yourself a checklist and having the distractions that can come in with that. So here's a great example from our friend Michael. Failed to chalk one side. We were distracted and tired. Rig was at a slight angle, and when it came off the hitch, the whole rig shifted to the side that wasn't chalked, and the front tongue jack fell off the blocks it was
Oh.
on. It could have been worse, and it was an easy problem to solve, but definitely put a fear into us. No excuses for it to happen again. Imagine if that happened if your site was really unlevel.
Mm,
That
mm.
could be big disaster. A lot of people don't think that they need to chalk both sides of the wheels. A lot of people don't think that they need to chalk a fifth wheel, which is crazy. Um, because they think, oh, it's got these jacks. No, and especially when you're hitching and unhitching, that's the most dangerous moment right there.
So let's turn the camera on ourselves
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
We have had
Mm,
very similar. Now, we have never had it come off like
mhm.
Michael's talking about, but we have been at fault for getting to a place. Either we're excited that we're there, we're, not paying attention to the steps, and we unhook the whole thing,
Yeah, completely set up.
completely set up. And then I am like, Jason, there are no wheel chocks under this thing
I
whatsoever.
like that. This really quickly turned from a we to a Jason, didn't it?
Well, I just mean like I notice I
Yeah,
say, Jason, there's no because I actually am the one who does the wheel chalks. Like that's on me. Usually that's the one thing I try to do a couple of things when we first get somewhere so that I can quickly get into the rig and then start doing the things inside the rig. But obviously there's stuff you have to do first outside before you can go inside. I want nothing to do with hooking up or unhooking the rig. I feel like it's really important that just one person does that particular job because that person's going to have a pattern. And if you have multiple people doing that job, it becomes a question of like, am I checking and rechecking or it's just better for us and how we do RV life if one person unhooks and hooks up. And so I try to pick things to
yeah,
do that assist with that, and chalking is one of them. And there's been times when it's like, oh shnikes, we don't have any of this down. There are
yeah. And
children inside the rig.
thankfully, very flat site, and it wasn't a problem.
Thankfully. And it's
But
only happened a couple of times, and it was enough to just put, like Michael said, it puts a fear into you. And certainly it wasn't as intense as what happened to them. But you say, you remember next
well, here's
time.
one that I hadn't thought of before. When it comes to fifth wheels, is accidentally leaving the tailgate up. So Neil posted this, and several other people posted some version of this. I uncoupled the fifth wheel and slammed the tailgate shut before pulling
Oh,
away.
no.
In case you ever wondered how strong a pickup tailgate is, I watched mine crumple like an empty beer can with very little effort. That fifth wheel hitch is going to rip that apart.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah,
I've always been worried we're going to leave it down
yeah.
and then we're going to take off.
I'm sure I've seen people say that happened to
Yeah.
them too, where they pull away and they turn and they hear a crunch and their tailgate is
Yeah.
jammed into the front bay of their fifth wheel.
Yeah. And that has always been a fear of mine when we had the fifth wheel, to the point where I always like to do just one last like kind of perimeter walk and just make sure like if there's, the electric cover needs to go down or like plug in, the little cover for the water or something, just like and I'm always doing that because my biggest fear is like we will leave with the tailgate down and then that's all she wrote when we
Yeah.
go to turn out of that site.
Or
So
or your fifth wheel hitch isn't latched
I
and
know
you pull away, always do that tug test where you do a little tug and make sure it's in there with your jacks just a little bit off the ground to make sure that it's not going to drop onto your tailgate. But you're lucky if it drops onto your tailgate and not just falls
boy.
off on the highway, right?
I mean, listen, as much as this episode is for all of us, let's be real. This episode is for Jason and Abby to remember all the things they need to remember about a fifth wheel because we have not towed one in over 2 years.
RV Miles is sponsored by eTrailer. eTrailer's upgraded all of their product listings and fit guides for 2025 vehicles. At eTrailer, they know that upgrading to a new vehicle is a big step. We just did it, and one that comes with its own set of challenges. Whether you're wondering, will my old roof rack work with my new ride, or how do I make sure I'm ready to tow the moment I hit the road, they get it. Transitioning to a new vehicle shouldn't mean starting from scratch when it comes to your gear. We just upfitted our new truck with a new tonneau cover and a bed rug from eTrailer, and more is on the way for sure. eTrailer has 2025 fits for the products you already know and trust, with insights from enthusiasts and tailored solutions for the latest vehicles. They're here to ensure that your new adventure starts smoothly. Whether you're already cruising in your 2025 vehicle or planning ahead to make your future purchase worry-free, you can count on eTrailer to provide the gear, advice, and confidence you need to hit the road without hesitation. Visit the link in the description below or visit eTrailer.com.
This works with a fifth wheel or a travel trailer. Kelly posted, forgot to bring up one of the jacks so you can fill in the rest. We've done that once before
we
too,
did that.
and it wasn't actually a problem. It was fine, but
Yeah.
I've seen people completely destroy their, their leveling jacks or whatever because they forgot to bring them up when they started to pull away.
Well, and I think when it happened for us too, I was actually out of the truck and we were driving off blocks. So I was staying out there for when you drive off, I pick them up and then I put them in the back. And so I think because we lucked out, because as you started to move, you barely creeped. And I was like, whoa, whoa, like, onto the phone. I was like, whoa, 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 stop. Like these are still, we missed a step. And so thankfully, because one of us was out there, and maybe that's just a good rule of thumb if you can do it, even if you you're not on blocks or you have no reason, if you're the passenger, you really don't have a reason to be outside of the truck when you're driving away, maybe, or even in the motorhome, whatever it is maybe a good idea to just go ahead and stand out there.
Yeah, watch yourself pull out.
And watch the rig leave the site, watch it kind of pull out, look for any things. Because obviously, one of the last things we do before I do my final walk around is we do a light check. We always do a light check. You go in the back, you check, you make sure the brake lights are working, you have them do left blinker, right blinker, and you're good to go. And so I'm always out there anyway. And he pulls out of the site and then I join and get in the truck once we've left the site. It's just a nice way too to make sure we haven't left anything there. But thankfully things were fine for Kelly, but also thankfully one of us was out there watching when that happened to us too.
Overlooking route planning. This is an obvious one, I think, and we did talk about this one a lot on the Why Your RV Trip Sucks episode, so I don't want to get too deep into it. But do you remember that time, or did I even tell you about this?
Oh boy. Confessions of the RV Miles podcast.
We were in
Here
the
we
bus.
go.
We were in the bus, and you had taken the kids.
Is this when you went the wrong way for 2 hours?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Because you
No,
dropped
that was
that
another
bomb
thing.
on me.
Yeah. There was this time where you had taken the kids in the minivan to go get lunch or something, and I was bringing us into the campground. And it was, I think we were going to, whatever that, was Gulf State Park. We were heading to Gulf State Park.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And the GPS, which I was just using Google Maps, had routed me down a route that took me over some railroad tracks. These railroad tracks were like big hump up in the air railroad tracks. And I got into a situation where there was no backing out of there. I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna have to hope this is all right. And I went over them, and I heard just the tiniest little scrape. So it was totally fine. But it could have been I should not have gone over them. It could have been so much worse. I could have been a teeter-totter on top of that railroad track hill if I was in a motorhome with like a shorter clearance than we had in that bus.
If you're listening to this and you can't see my face, just know that I didn't know this story, that I'm hearing it for the first time it had to have been 6 years ago
Yeah.
that we were doing this. So, hey, all's well that ends well.
Yeah.
And that is first, okay, we don't have to get into this, but down in that area, along the Gulf
Yeah.
Shores, those train tracks, the clearance on that bus was huge.
It was
I
huge,
don't know
yeah.
anyone that's driving over those.
Yeah, and
Like-
we think though when we're in situations like that, we're in the Southeast where bridges usually aren't a problem. So maybe we're not using the RV GPS, we're not checking the route very
Mhm.
much. So we do stuff like that. That's dumb, right?
Yeah, which that was dumb. That was dumb. And thankfully it worked out okay and Bussy was fine.
Next up, not checking for obstacles. And this is something that even the most experienced of us get into, but lots of people have stories about like the first time they took their RV out or the second time or the third. I remember when we pulled that bus conversion into our first campground, I hit a they had like one of those lantern hanger posts. And I brushed up against that and
I remember
and
when you
scratched our
hit-
new paint job.
Well, you remember when you hit the post at that campground was it Nebraska or something by the Lewis and Clark? It was an Army Corps of
Yeah.
Engineer one where we were camped right next to that super cool park and you met that really nice gentleman who
Yeah.
had just lost his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were coming in and you hit.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, you hit the post in the back. I mean, we've hit a post at Fort Wilderness. Remember when we hit that
Yeah,
that
with the
blasted
truck
thing
that
with
time.
yeah, but that was when we had the 37 FLL, and we've talked about how those sites are.
Well,
they're not
also-
impossible, but
Also,
you need
Disney
to,
does such a great job of painting stuff so it looks like it disappears into the background, right?
those trimmer running boards saved that truck.
But
Saved that truck.
Campgrounds do a lot of stuff that they shouldn't do. They put boulders at the end of the sites to try to keep you from running over the corner of them and stuff, and the posts, but also look up. There's often issues up. Tom said, tried to do the right thing and pull to the side of the street to check directions rather than messing with my phone while driving. Forgot to check the tree overhang out into the street, hit the tree limb, bent the awning, and tore up the
Oh.
edge of the roof. The tree is only a block from my house. It taunts me every time that I drive by it. It's really common that people will have damage to the passenger side upper quadrant in an RV because they'll hit a tree limb, they'll hit a sign, a post, something like that, a telephone pole, because the road often will be crowned. So it's higher in the middle than it is on the side. So when you get to that, you pull over and you get to the edge, you're actually leaning a little bit out of the roadway, and you can easily hit stuff over there. This guy from Reddit said first day at the campsite was trying to make a turn and didn't judge the large rock on the side, and it damaged the compartment door and some of the siding. Next day, backed into a concrete barrier I didn't see until I heard it.
Oh my gosh.
Separated back part of the back of the RV, but was able to put it back in place.
With what? Duct tape?
Steve said, pulled into a new park at night in the trees with no lights. I saw I could pull into the site across from mine and back into my site. After some maneuvering, the whole rig stopped moving. Not forward, not backward. Didn't hear any bad noises. Yes, I had my guide watching in the back. After a walk around, I discovered the site number post in my wheel well between the tires. It was dark brown, wooden, about 2 feet high. I had to open the slide and start digging. Did I mention I'm blocking up the road? A few minutes after digging, rocking, cussing, etc., I pulled up the signpost and laid it down, put in the slide, and after a careful walk around with a flashlight, I backed into my space. Then I heard a noise. It was the neighbor chuckling.
Hey, but what a good neighbor. They didn't come over and try to help.
Maybe they should have helped. Maybe they should have helped at that
I
point.
don't know if I had heard a lot of cussing.
Hey, there's a
and-
signpost there.
Well, now, to be fair, How is the neighbor to know
Those
that they did not see it
those
until it was
little
too late?
those little brown 4x4 posts that often are in the ground, that's the site number. Those can cause a lot of damage, and lots of people have hit those.
Yeah,
All right.
for sure.
Next one is ignoring weight limits and overpacking your rig. Um, People don't realize the damage they're doing to their RVs. A lot of this frame damage stuff that we've heard about in recent years, yeah, some of it
It's
is
legit.
legit manufacturer issues,
Everybody calm down.
but some of it is people being way overloaded. And we have some good friends that they had some frame damage, and they finally weighed their rig, and they were over 1,000 pounds over, and
I
had to
think it
sort of
was
like leave stuff, sell
I think it
stuff.
was more. I think
More,
it
maybe
was
more.
more. They'll let go of all those textbooks. Uh, yeah, when we went from Bussy, which could basically you could put anything in it, it did
Yeah.
not matter.
No, it was a 36,000 pound
It was
GVWR.
ridiculous. I mean, we were IKEA furniture. Every book the kids owned was in there. I mean, all of the stuff. And then we went into a Heartland Pioneer travel trailer, and it was like, wait, what? What's a cargo carrying capacity? That's a thing? That was a lot of that was difficult. We had
Yeah.
a lot of things we had to let go of in order to make that work. And now when I think about what the cargo carrying capacity is on the 37 RV miles, I'm like, we can have all the things in there. Oh my gosh, like because we're not full time anymore. It's like it's amazing.
Next up is neglecting regular maintenance. Obviously, these RVs have lots of finicky things that need to be done to them on a regular basis, and a lot of people don't know them. They haven't read some of the manuals, and I know the manuals are terrible, but
You are on a manual kick recently.
they're so
You
bad.
are advocating for manuals. Bring
Yeah.
manuals back is what
Well,
Jason is
don't just
trying to
pile
do.
us up with all the different component manuals. You get a packet that's the air conditioner manual, the furnace manual, it's all of this, the axles, all the little stuff. But the manufacturer sometimes doesn't even make their own manual to sort of give you a guide of like all the things that you need to do, like checking your seals and resealing them on a regular basis, and
Maybe someone needs to
how to
make a
winterize.
manual about all the things you should check on your
Yeah, I
RV.
mean, the problem is it's
Somebody, I
different
wonder if
depending
someone
on the
should.
RV you have, though.
Yeah, but there's some basic manual,
Yeah,
like,
there
basic
there
care.
there are people
Hmm.
better than me that have done this, but
Well, we should find it and we should advocate for people to read those. I mean, no, you
yeah.
are on a read your
Well,
manual kick lately,
but
I've
it's
noticed.
but there are also like there's this whole, I talked about this a bit on the live stream that I was a part of last
I
night. I
know.
did this live stream with the folks over at Bish's and their podcast, the RV Voice. And one of the things that I talked about and that came up in the conversation was the fact that people that buy an RV used often don't get a walkthrough, so they don't get told some of the basic stuff that happens in a walkthrough, or they get a walkthrough from the previous owner who, maybe they didn't know what they're doing either. So it is important to really figure out what you're supposed to be doing with tire maintenance and all that sort of stuff, and check that stuff constantly. When you're getting ready to go on a trip, you want to do pre-trip inspections. This isn't your checklist of things that you do to hook up and unhook. You want to be, checking the tire pressures, checking your seals, doing, making sure your air conditioner vents are clean and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you want to check before you take your RV out on a big trip. Next up, mismanaging water and waste systems. A lot of people, again, don't know how to use these things properly. And, there's arguments all the time about whether you should leave your black tank open at the campground. Spoiler alert, you shouldn't, because all the liquids run out and the solids stay in. You you want the liquid and solid to empty at the same time. Otherwise, it can be
Or
awful.
it's a
But
pyramid and not a pyramid scheme,
if
even though those are
you
bad too.
if you RV enough, you will have some sort of sewer situation
Hmm.
happen to you. You will either, you'll be in a hurry, you'll get down there. This is something I've done before, thankfully not too much disaster. but you get down there and maybe you pull the sewer handle before you've hooked the hose up, and you pull the sewer handle before you put the other end of the hose into
Oh,
the drain.
Jason,
You know,
you
because
did that?
you're just moving. I did do that once, but thankfully, like the other end was high enough that it didn't come
Oh,
out of it. Right
oh, oh,
there, you just
oh,
get
oh.
into, you think you're in a routine, you think you know what you're doing, you're not following your checklist, you're not paying attention, somebody's talking to you, all that sort of stuff.
Oh man, it's
It
such a
happens.
hub at the dump station. Man, that is just chitty chat central.
Yeah.
People really, you included, everybody really loves to talk to one another while they're
Well,
dumping their
and along
tanks.
these lines, this is something that I've done and lots of people have done as well. When you're doing your black tank flush, you've got the internal sprayer in your black tank. This comment was, I forgot to open the black tank valve while running the sprayer, and the contents of the tank found the next best exit.
Mm-hmm.
Spent a week disinfecting the RV. So what happens is a lot of people will run their tank sprayer with the valve closed at the end, and that allowing that tank to fill up. And if you forget about it, the water just starts coming out of the toilet.
It does.
And we know
We
that
know that.
firsthand.
We know that. Thankfully, when it happened to us, I think you were on your second or third
Yeah.
flush.
Yeah.
So it
The
wasn't
thing
the
is, it's
first.
a really effective way to flush a tank.
Yeah. I mean, you do it, when you flush a tank, you'll try to do 2 or 3 cycle throughs if we have
Yeah.
the time.
And some people will like set a
Um,
timer. So that's what I've started to do, is like set a
mhm.
timer and be like, I'm not going to leave this running for more than 5 minutes.
It
But
made me,
you gotta realize too that the flow rate of the water is gonna be different depending where you are. So you
oh,
can't just
great.
like, you gotta be like, I'm just going to half here, right?
Yeah. I mean, since then, anytime I hear that sprayer kick in and the noise start and I know
Yeah.
you're flushing, I'm on high alert. I'm on high alert.
So I'll often, if I'm doing that, I will start that up now, and I will go inside and I will watch from the inside down the toilet.
But how does that help you if it starts flowing out of the toilet? That's a long run
Oh,
to the
because I'm watching it. I know that I'm leaving way
I
before
see.
it's ever
I
getting there,
see.
you know?
You're opening.
Yeah.
You're stepping on the pedal and taking a
Yeah.
look down in
Now,
there.
when you're taking a look down your toilet, here's a tip. I have not done this, but I know lots of people that have. Do not use your phone as a flashlight to look down your toilet.
That bye-bye phone. Bye-bye.
Lots of people have dropped their phones down those
Oh,
RV toilets before, and
gross. How do
have
you
fun getting that
how
back.
do you get we don't have to talk about that.
Do you get it back? I don't know.
That's a story for another day. All
Well,
right.
we've also talked to a lot of people who have, a lot of people like to use a scrub brush to scrub out that
Mm-hmm.
column in there, which can get
Mm-hmm.
pretty gross. But some of those scrub brushes, the head's just glued on, and that head can fall off into your
And
tank, and then you've got a clog in your lines to drain, and that's
yeah,
a big problem as
not
well.
great. Not great.
One more when it comes to black tanks. Couldn't dump the black tank first trip in the RV. Had mobile repair come out, and he said your secondary black tank valve wasn't opened. And we said, what secondary black tank valve? The number
Oh,
of
see?
people
That
that don't know they have a second black tank or a second gray tank or multiple valves in a line is very, very common.
that just goes back to what you were saying earlier. Like, did they buy
Yeah.
used
Yeah.
and they didn't get that kind of
Or
information,
somebody
or
just didn't tell them, or
didn't
the manual didn't have that information in it.
the dealer didn't point
'Cause
out, like, you've got 2 black tanks in
Well,
here. Like, think of all the liquid you can have.
what will often happen if you do get a manual, the manual will be generic for that whole brand, right? And
Yeah.
they're not saying, well, this unit has 2 black tanks and this other one only has 1, and they're not doing all that. They're just generally telling you how to dump a black tank.
Yep.
Failing to secure interior items,
Spaghetti sauce.
leaving loose objects at shift during travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a bottle of spaghetti sauce
Yeah, I think we've told this
explode
story a
on
few
us.
times, but I would say that that's the most we've certainly had other
Yeah,
things that we have forgotten to secure. Maybe, the TV didn't get secured in and, it just like you come in and you can tell it's moved, right? Like,
yeah,
and that's the smaller one in Bexley.
yeah. We got lucky because that could be
Yeah.
worse. Yeah.
But the spaghetti sauce is probably the biggest PETA post accident we've had to deal with because it hit spectacularly and just shattered. Thankfully, the glass didn't shatter. Didn't shatter on all of us up front in the bus, but it certainly left its mark all over the kitchen.
Not putting everything back after a quick stop. And this is where
Mm,
that can happen a lot, where you forget to put things away. You forget to lock your fridge. You did a quick
yep,
stop. You decided we're gonna make some lunch at this rest area.
done
You
that.
open up your fridge and then close it up and you forget to put the lock back on it.
Amazingly, though, our fridge never in the Sabre, we've done that in the
Yeah.
Sabre. It never opened.
It
We were
never
really
never
lucky.
opened. We
And
got
remember
lucky.
that one
Yeah.
time we'd actually gotten lunch somewhere and we were just going to eat it in the rig. And someone had a fountain soda, and they left a full fountain soda sitting on the breakfast bar by the door.
Yeah.
And we traveled for hundreds of
Magically.
miles.
Magically.
And thankfully, we must have been on some great highway roads. That thing did not move. And
Th-
we walked in and I was like, this is like a full thing of Fanta.
I know. This is often too when we'll accidentally leave the exterior handle, the handle that you go up the
Yeah,
stairs, the
we've
fold out
done that a
handle.
couple
We'll leave
times.
that open. But
Driving down the road, I look back and I'm like, Jay, pull over the handle. Handles out on
uh,
the RV.
we've never done anything as bad as what Kathy did here, forgetting to pull the kitchen slide in after
Oh,
stopping for lunch. Luckily, it was only out for a couple blocks before hubby noticed it out the rear view mirror.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's always such a worry of
Yeah.
mine. Like that we might, especially if you just kind of like inch it out a little bit because you're trying to get past it. Like if you need access to something that the
Yeah.
slide blocks and you inch it out a little bit for while you're cooking and doing all those things because you don't want to fully put it out because of where you're at. I'm always worried that we've inched it out just enough that we don't notice that it needs to come back in and that will take off and it'll be like slightly out. Oh my gosh. So that must have been such a stressor.
Ignoring problems until they become worse. You got a water leak
Mm.
and it keeps coming at you. You got to fix it because that water leak could get worse and worse and worse. Electrical problems. There's something electrical happening. It could be disastrous like this next story, not to bring things down here a bit, but I had a breaker flip a couple times while my RV was being semi-stored on a property I own. I ignored it and flipped it back each time. The fourth time I flipped it and everything was fine again, so I left. 3 hours later, it erupted into flames and burned to the ground in less than 15 minutes.
Oh.
Moral of the story, figure out why a breaker flips if it does it more than twice in a short period of time. Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
that breaker was flipping for a reason. And you can't just go put a new bigger breaker in, right? Sometimes a breaker is tripping because the breaker is going bad and you want to put a breaker in, but the breaker is tripping because of some sort of problem. There is a reason that it's happening. And if it's happening multiple times, it could be something unfortunately disastrous.
Yeah, please don't mess around with electrical or anything that's going on with the propane. Don't screw around with those things.
And our last one is not being weather aware. We all get out on the road and we're on vacation and we're not paying it. We're not in our routine that we are at home where maybe we check the weather every day or we watch our nightly news or whatever you might do, where you learn about the weather and stuff. You kind of forget to do that sometimes when you're out on a vacation. And obviously there have been lots of natural disasters over several years. You can argue all you want about why climate is changing, but weather has been weird over the last few years, right? There has
Sure.
been a
Yeah.
lot of and things like Tornado Alley moving down further south and stuff. you need to know what's going on with the weather every single day. If you were, in Southern California and you didn't know that this big wind system was coming in that ripped through LA, I mean, obviously not a lot of people were camping in that area, but you need to know that this stuff is coming so you can properly prepare for it. So
Yeah,
check the weather.
don't be afraid. Just be aware. And, I think about we're heading out in April and May, and there's going to be some things we're going to need to be mindful of as we're out in the West. But I was like, oh, we're actually kind of leaving during the beginning of sort of peak severe weather season here. Like we're getting away from what is during that time is generally the start of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes and things like that here. But I was like, well, okay, we need to make sure before we leave that we don't have anything out on the patio or anything like that that could blow around. Like being weather aware, even of the weather in the place you're leaving. So if you're leaving your sticks and bricks during a heightened weather season, just make sure that you have your house kind of secure and okay for you to be gone during that time.
Yeah, and often we go places where we don't understand the kind of stuff that they deal with. We don't know about, if you're from around here, you don't really know about wildfires at all, right? That's
Right.
not something that happens here in the Midwest. You don't know about hurricanes. So, know about the kind of weather systems that might hit you wherever you're going so that you can just be prepared and know the ways to deal with those things,
Yeah.
like getting up and leaving.
Or if you're not a big fan of hurricane season, don't go that way during hurricane season like we did.
Yeah.
Don't do that because then you might find yourself wondering whether or not you're going to be in a hurricane.
Well, like what kind of warnings you get. Like hurricanes, generally, you get a decent enough warning to get way out of the way. But then there are other types of things like a tornado, where maybe a thunderstorm's coming, but you don't know that a
Yeah.
tornado they're pretty sudden things, right?
Ryan Hall, y'all. Start watching him on YouTube.
It's pretty great.
He's pretty great. He's pretty great.
So that's a list of some disasters out there. We hope you enjoyed that. If you
We hope you left feeling really good about the RV lifestyle. Just so great.
I think the thing is, if you are prepared and you know about these things in advance, you're less likely to have them happen to you.
We are just here to have all of the emotions that come with being RVers. And this happens to be one of them, stuff happens. It is time to check the level of our tanks, sponsored by our friends over at Liquefied RV Toilet Treatment, the No BS toilet treatment. You can find them over at liquefiedrv.com. And while you're there, don't forget, they are still giving away that free Alliance Delta travel trailer. It's going until May 1st. No purchase necessary to enter. Head over to liquefiedrv.com to learn more. And hey, maybe someone in the RV Miles community will be sporting a new travel trailer later this year. All right, Jay, what is in your black tank this week?
Igloo, which is, they're the biggest brand of coolers there is.
I'm
right?
familiar.
They are recalling more than 1 million
Hello.
coolers. 1 million 90-quart rolling coolers because the tow handle, so these are coolers that have wheels on them and a handle, right? The tow handle can pinch consumers' fingertips against the cooler, posing fingertip amputation and crushing hazards. I don't
What?
think anybody would buy a cooler and a plastic cooler and think there's a possibility that I might have to have my finger amputated after using this
What?
thing.
How are you? I have so many questions. How are you holding it? What are you doing that the force is so great that it amputates your fingertip?
I don't know, but they have reports of fingertip amputations, bone fractures, and lacerations sold at Costco, Target, Academy, Dick's, and other stores nationwide and online at Amazon.
Whoa.
So these are coolers that were sold between January 2019 and January 2025. So if you have the Igloo 90-quart flip and tow rolling cooler,
6 years
make
worth
sure-
of coolers?
make sure that they're going to replace the handle for you.
Listen, if I what? Okay. Okay. There's a lot of black tank all
Yeah.
over the place on this one. All right. What is in your fresh tank this week?
My fresh tank is a stat that comes from Go RVing, who's the marketing arm of the RV industry. And they do this survey every few years. And I just did a video that should be out on the RV Miles YouTube channel, going into a little bit of this, particularly about full timers in that video. But what the what I found really interesting in this report, they do this about I think the last one was 2021. So it's been 4 years. We've had this big COVID boom between then and now, right? Back then in 2021, the median number of days people used their RV was 20 days out of the year. That's the median, meaning a lot of people, half people using it less, right? Many people using their RV 10, 12, 13 days out of the year. That number now is 30 days out of the year.
Oh, cool.
So it's gone up 50%
Wow.
in 4 years. So there has been this big boom in RVing over the last 4 years, as we all know. But it's not just in the number of RVs sold, it's also in how long people use them, how often they camp. And that's a really great thing. And we're seeing this, by the way, all across outdoor adventure, outdoor sports, those industries. So water skiing, jet skiing, off-roading, and ATVing, and mountain climbing, and bouldering, all of those different sports and activities have seen a big boom since COVID. And I think it's really great. Now, of course, it means a lot of people that explains why there's still a lot of problems getting campsites, right?
Yeah.
Because if people are using their RVs 50% more, obviously the campgrounds are 50% more full.
Yeah. Interesting. All right.
So what's in your black tank this week?
Okay. Can we talk about some of the Super Bowl commercials? Okay.
The
What
cowboy hat, skin hat
What
head thing.
black tank to body part Super Bowl commercials? The hats, the wizard hat, the cowboy hat as part of your skin, the tongue.
The tongue. Oh, the tongue one.
tongue?
That was the worst commercial.
And they only showed that one time, and I think that was one time too many.
That was
Then
bad.
we watched Eugene Levy's eyebrows.
I didn't mind the eyebrows. I thought that was kind of funny. The eyebrows was funny.
Sure. But and then we also had the mustaches.
Yeah, so that was the thing. The eyebrows was funny because it was Little Caesars, and that's the Little Caesars guy.
Pizza.
But then Little Caesar, then Pringles does this virtually the same commercial with the mustache from the Pringles guy.
When you lump it all together, I was like, this is a lot of body parts. Like a lot of body part commercials are happening in the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl commercials were kind of a little like meh. They were kind of a little safe. They were kind of a little boring. There were a lot of repeats, which was weird. I mean, some commercials were being shown, and I'm not talking about the ones that are going to be network pushing commercials for the network that has it. Like we always get those every year. But there were other repeats, which I kind of was like, you have space for repeats?
Yeah, you know, when they do that in the past, it's been, and there were a couple examples that did this the right way in the Super Bowl, but often they'll have like a commercial and then they'll have another one that's on the same theme.
They're
it's the
building
same
it.
actors. They're building something and they're telling a story. But we saw several that were just like, we're just going to show this same commercial again.
I thought the Harrison Ford one was kind of lame.
The Jeep one?
I thought the Tom Brady Snoop Dogg one was really lame. I kind of felt like either I was getting body parts or I was kind of getting like PSAs. And it's kind of weird to me when I think like the most enjoyable commercial was the Dunk Kings.
Yeah.
And it was like Ben Affleck. And I was like, this is probably the best commercial of the Super Bowl. And I was like, oh, I just black tank. I never need to see that cowboy hat skin skull thing ever again.
But we're all talking about it.
Never. But I don't know what brand it was.
I don't either.
Who's it belong to, Jason?
What brand it was. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. I have no idea the company. I just know that when he walked into that bar and they were wearing their wizard skull skins and he was wearing his cowboy skull skin, I was like, I'm out.
It's done.
No, thank you.
What's in your fresh tank for this week?
Oh, okay. So you have heard me speak negatively about Starbucks a lot recently. They've gotten my black tank a couple times. Hopefully. I would like to say to Starbucks, I see you. I see you trying to do better and make coffee. Like, let's have coffee. You have brought back the coffee bar. Thank you.
And mugs too, right? They're going to have mugs in the stores.
You get mugs now.
Whoa.
If you're going to, whoa is right. We're trying to make this maybe have a little bit more of a coffee shop feel. Okay. It's very nice. I enjoy that I can get a mug. Thank you for the coffee bar where I'm going to get my, I can do my own sugars. I'm a grown up now, so I get to do my own sugars. I can do my own creamer. And thank you for putting not only half and half, but oat milk out there now at no charge. I saw that. That was very nice. So thank you. But I want to give a little love. And you know that this has been kind of my favorite coffee drink right now. Is they have something on their menu that is a cortado. It's a brown sugar oat milk cortado. It is.
I'm not ordering anything that has a cortado.
Yeah, so it's 3 ristretto shots, blonde espresso
You're
ristretto
saying
shots.
words that I don't need to know what they mean.
Read the manual. Okay, you need to go. Obviously, I'll get you a manual. I'll get you a manual and you can read it.
There's many intricacies to it.
You can read the manual. Why does bourbon have to have so many intricacies to it, Jason?
I don't know, but you can just.
Why are there 95 different versions of bourbon out there?
But you still just pour it and drink it.
Right. But why do some people say you only drink it on ice? Why do some say you don't drink it on ice? Why does it have to be drunk in this certain particular cup? Okay, thank you. Wow, I win. Listen.
Did you?
I did. So hard. This drink is great. I highly recommend it. It's 8 ounces. It's not the giant.
Because you know what Starbucks got us to do? They got us to pay as much as you pay for a shot of bourbon for a cup of coffee.
Wow. You must be drinking cruddy bourbon if you are paying $5.50. That's garbage bourbon, and you need to stop drinking it. I really recommend this. I recommend it with only 1 pump of the brown sugar because I don't like them. I like to be able to taste coffee, but it's nice. It comes in 8 ounces. It's not like the giant Stanley Cup version of a Frappuccino you get out of that place. It's not laden with whipped cream and they're not drizzling caramel along the outside of it and all these millions of things. It is just delicious ristretto espresso with some steamy oat milk and a little bit of cinnamon and brown sugar, and it's delightful, and I'm really happy to see it on the menu.
4 or 5 years ago, you started a frenzy on this podcast by recommending everybody go get the pumpkin cream cold brew
all day. Listen, all day, okay? But y'all know I'm going to dial back those pumpkin shots on there, okay? All day. I love that thing, okay? I have a different feeling. That is still not a Frappuccino, okay? And it's still not the pink drink and it's whatever. But if we're going to start another frenzy on this podcast, it is time to go have the cortado at Starbucks. Or like I did this morning on my way to my doctor's appointment, I just got a cup of coffee. And then I put a little bit of cream in it.
I noticed because I got out of bed and I'm like, oh, there's no coffee in the coffee pot.
I had an 8 a.m. doctor's appointment and there was a child asleep in the living room. And I was not grinding coffee, not making coffee, didn't prep it before I went to bed last night because I was busy watching TV. And I got some coffee this morning.
That's it for this week's episode of the RV Miles podcast.
Jason is ready to be done. We have to go. He doesn't want to talk about bourbon anymore. All right. Thank you so much for joining us this week. And hey, just a reminder, if you are not following us on social media, how can we talk to you then? You need to be following us on social media. Go over to Instagram or Facebook. You can find us on Threads, YouTube. We're not really on TikTok. So Facebook. There's the Facebook group as well. Go over and find us there. We love chatting with all of you. And of course, if you're watching this on the RV Miles podcast channel on YouTube, please leave a comment down below and let us know what you think about some of the topics we covered today. And until next week, friends, Please stay safe. Go try one of those cortados minus 1 shot of brown sugar and keep logging those RV miles.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. You could also have a bourbon if you want, but don't pay $5.50 for it. Pay real money. Get a good bourbon.